Part 2. The Ominous Return. Days passed on the tranquil planet, and the crew's morale began to lift as they rested and recovered. The serenity of their temporary haven offered a stark contrast to the horrors they had escaped. Captain Jana Ordis, however, remained on edge, sensing that their respite was a fragile illusion. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the campsite, Professor Ren Voss approached Ordis with a look of grave concern. Clutched in his hand was a data pad, its screen flickering with ominous readings. "Captain, we have a problem," Voss began, his voice trembling. "The artifact, it's emitting a signal, a distress call, perhaps, but it's not calling for help. It's calling something to it. We have to go back and shut it down, or whatever it's summoning will find us here." Ordis felt a chill run down her spine. The thought of returning to the Sith temple was abhorrent, but they had no choice. If Voss was right, they were all in grave danger. The crew, now gathered around the campfire, listened in silence as Ordis relayed the news. Fear and dread etched their faces, but they knew what had to be done. Early the next morning, they set out, retracing their steps through the jungle. The journey back to the temple was fraught with an eerie sense of déjà vu. The once welcoming flora now seemed to close in around them, as if trying to prevent their return. The temple loomed ahead, more menacing than ever. As they approached, an unnatural coldness seeped into their bones, and the familiar whispers returned, more insistent and malevolent. Inside, the darkness was suffocating, and the glyphs on the walls seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. They made their way to the central chamber where the artifact lay. Voss's hands shook as he attempted to deactivate it, chanting incantations and manipulating controls that seemed to resist his every touch. Suddenly, the temple shook violently, and the ground beneath them cracked open, revealing a chasm filled with a glowing, sickly light. From the depths of the chasm, shadowy figures began to emerge, their forms twisted and grotesque. They were the temple's guardians, awoken by the disturbance. Panic set in as the crew fought desperately to fend off the apparitions. Blaster fire and screams echoed through the halls, blending into a cacophony of terror. In the chaos, Professor Voss was seized by one of the shadowy entities and dragged into the chasm, his screams lingering in the air long after he disappeared from sight. Captain Ordis and the remaining crew members fought their way back through the temple, but the malevolent forces pursued them relentlessly. One by one, the crew members fell, consumed by the shadows or succumbing to the temple's myriad traps. Blood stained the ancient stones, and the air was thick with the scent of fear and death. Captain Ordis, wounded and exhausted, pressed on, determined to reach the surface. As she neared the exit, she encountered the last of the temple's guardians, a massive spectral figure that blocked her path. Summoning her last reserves of strength, she engaged the guardian in a desperate struggle. The fight was brutal, and Ordis sustained grievous injuries, but she managed to strike a fatal blow, causing the guardian to dissolve into mist. Barely able to stand, Ordis stumbled out of the temple into the harsh daylight. The jungle, which had once seemed a refuge, now felt like a cage. She dragged herself through the underbrush, her vision blurring and her strength waning. Captain Ordis eventually collapsed near a small stream, the gentle sound of water offering a brief moment of peace amidst the chaos. Her body was broken, and her mind teetered on the edge of madness. The horrors she had witnessed and the loss of her crew weighed heavily on her soul. As she lay there, she felt a presence beside her. Opening her eyes, she saw the spirit of Professor Voss, his form shimmering and insubstantial. "You did it, Jana," he whispered, his voice a faint echo. "The artifact is dormant. The darkness won't spread. For now." Tears streamed down her face as she reached out, but Voss's spirit faded away. Alone and broken, Captain Ordis realized she had survived, but at a terrible cost. Her body bore the scars of her ordeal, and her mind was haunted by the memories of her fallen comrades. She knew she couldn't stay on this planet. Gathering what little strength she had left, she made her way back to the ship, each step a testament to her resilience. As the ship lifted off, leaving the cursed world behind, Ordis felt a hollow emptiness settle within her. The galaxy was vast, and she was but a lone survivor, carrying the weight of her experiences. The stars stretched out before her, a reminder of the countless worlds and stories that lay beyond. But for Captain Jana Ordis, the journey would forever be marred by the shadows of the Sith temple and the ghosts of her past. She had survived, but she was far from whole, her spirit fractured and her body scarred by the harrowing ordeal. As she set a course for the nearest inhabited system, she couldn't shake the feeling that the darkness she had encountered was not truly vanquished, but merely biding its time. The galaxy was a place of infinite wonders and terrors, and she had glimpsed the depths of its darkest corners. With a heavy heart and a fractured mind, she vowed to continue her journey, knowing that the echoes of the Obsidian Temple would haunt her forever.